What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this week's reading vlog. I'm really excited because we are in February, and February we have Valentine's Day, and unfortunately I'm really not in a romance mood. Like, I just haven't had any urge to pick up a romance book. So I was like, okay, well, how can I still do a reading vlog that's centered around Valentine's Day without it necessarily being romance books? So I decided for this week we're going to be reading red and pink books. If the book has red on it, if it has pink on it, if it has a combination of red and pink, I added it to this little stack. I have 6 books on my TBR that actually kind of like work for this video. I really don't have that many pink or red books, and surprisingly enough, I also had no romances that were pink or red because that was the only way a romance was going to make it into this video, and I literally had none. They were either purple or blue, but not pink or red, which is kind of crazy because you would think that there would be more romances that have pink or red in them. I don't know. I did say I have 6 books, and the 6 books that I was able to find that had some type of pink or red in them was Best Offer Wins by Marisha Kashino. This one I'm super excited to get to. I pulled this one for my February TBR, so it'll be kind of like knocking off 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm knocking off a book for my TBR, but also one that's specifically on my February TBR. And this one honestly just sounds like it's going to be so much fun. The next one I have is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, which is another one that was on my February TBR. Again, it has a little bit of red in it, so I figured this counts. This one is one that I've been honestly just putting off for far too long, so I'm really excited to get to it. The next one we have is Hot Wax by M.L. Rio. Clearly this has a lot of red on it, but it also has pink on the back, so I thought this one was a good option. This one is very anticipated for me. I'm really eager to get to it. The next book I have is King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. You guys know that Razorblade Tears was my favorite book of 2025. So this one being red is so perfect because I have been very eager to get to another book by him. So I'm very excited to get to this one. The next one we have is We Love You Bunny by Mona Awad. Clearly a very pink book. It's very pink on the inside too and stuff. So clearly this one had to be added. I absolutely loved Bunny. I hope it's just as kind of Fever-esque dream as Bunny was. I'm so excited to get to this one. And the last one we have is Ghost Camera by Darcy Coates. You guys know I love Darcy Coates, so you guys know that Darcy Coates is gonna find some way to make it onto this list, but just so happened to be that this book is very much red. So very excited to see what this one's about, and this is the last book that we will be choosing from. So we do have a pretty good stack here, and I will say it is mainly thrillers, which is kind of funny. So let's read a whole bunch of like red and pink thrillers this week, I guess. I was trying to think of a way to choose the books without actually picking and choosing them myself, because quite honestly, since they're all some type of thriller, mystery, horror, I don't know. I don't know how to choose them. So what I decided to do was I put the titles of the books in the wheel of names, and I'm just going to randomly pick out of the stack. So all of them are in here. I'm going to spin the wheel 3 times, and whatever 3 books pop up are the books that we will be reading. Okay, so I'm screen recording so you guys can see. I'm going to spin the wheel 3 times, and whatever 3 books come up are the 3 books we are going to read. Okay, the first one is The Thursday Murder Club. I'm actually really excited because you guys know I have been putting this one off for far too long. So I'm very excited to be getting to this one this week. This one is giving kind of like cozy mystery vibes, which I think is going to be perfect for this kind of like time, especially because February is still kind of cold. It's winter. You still want to be cozy, and I think a cozy mystery is just a perfect book for this time. So this is the first book. Okay, we're going to spin again. Okay. I was not expecting that. We have Hot Wax by M.L. Rio. I'm actually really excited to see what this one's about because I really haven't heard anybody talk about it, which is kind of crazy. This one's kind of like a thriller mystery, I think, kind of revolved around a band It says a vivid and immersive tale of one woman's reckless mission to make sense of the events that shattered her childhood and made her who she is. So I think it might have been her dad that was interested in the rock and roll situation, and maybe she's kind of like a product of that. But either way, I'm so excited to get to this one and see what it's all about. But this is our second book. Okay, and the last book is okay. Ghost Camera by Darcy Coates. I am so excited to get to this one, guys. This one's going to be terrifying. I don't know that it's going to be terrifying, but I'm highly expecting this one to be very scary because the concept of seeing a photograph and there's something in the background of that photograph, and then every time you take a picture, it just gets closer. It says they're always watching. When Jenny finds an abandoned Polaroid camera, she playfully snaps a photo without a second thought. But there's something wrong with the image. A ghostly figure stands in the background watching her, fixated on her, moving one step closer with every picture she takes. That is freaking terrifying, guys. That's terrifying. But these are the 3 books that we'll be reading this week. I feel like these 3 are very different. Like they're all some type of thriller, mystery, horror, but they're all different enough where I feel like reading them back to back won't feel like I'm reading the same thing over and over again, because this one, cozy mystery, this one, very much a horror, and this one is going to be kind of like, I think, more so thriller, mystery, suspense. So it's definitely got a variety, a good variety here. So I'm really excited. I'm not sure what I want to start with just yet. I will be back when I decide which one I am going to choose. But either way, I'm so excited because all of these books sound like they're going to be so good. Okay guys, it has been a few days now since I have last talked to you. I think since I started this video, I just got really busy. I ended up posting on Instagram what book I should actually pick up because, guys, I was so conflicted which ones I actually wanted to read. So I posted what book I should pick up, and the winner was actually The Thursday Murder Club. A lot of people actually chose this one. So this is the book I did start reading. I am about 70 pages in, so I'm on chapter 21. This book has a lot of chapters. I was like, wait a minute. There's 100 and something chapters in this book. And it's because these chapters are really short, which is really great because it makes it feel like you're reading a lot faster. We're essentially following 4 unlikely friends at this retirement village. And they're very into kind of like true crime, going over cases and kind of like trying to solve some cases. And someone associated to the retirement village that they live in ends up murdered. And this is like their opportunity to solve or help solve a true crime that's actually active and at their doorstep. So something I'm really enjoying about this is that between some of these chapters, or not between them, because I think they are like given their own chapter, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But some of the chapters are actually journal entries from one of the 4 of the group. And I'm finding I'm enjoying those little journal entries a little more than actually following the storyline. And that's because our main storyline is actually following maybe 3 or 4 different people. With these chapters being so short, we're kind of like jumping too quickly around our different characters. And it's like, one second I'm in Elizabeth's point of view, but then all of a sudden I'm in the detective's point of view. It jumps around so much. So I'm not really loving that structure. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about this. I'm hoping it picks up because, like I said, I'm only 70 pages in. That's kind of like my thoughts and updates so far with this one. I'm hoping to get pretty far into this book today. I will definitely be updating you along the way, but I will be back with some thoughts when I get a little more into this. It is now the next day, and I did finish reading The Thursday Murder Club yesterday by Richard Osman. And I will say my feelings about this did definitely change the more I kept going with the story. I did actually really enjoy this. There was an adjustment period for me when reading this book. It did take me a while to kind of like really get a feel for the writing style of this. It is kind of like chaotic is what the word that comes to mind when I think of the writing style. It feels very chaotic. Like the chapters, some chapters are literally just like, for instance, one page. That's it. And each chapter, sometimes it follows the same perspective, but other times we're in just a completely different perspective. And I think for me, it was just getting used to how fast the turnaround was for jumping from perspectives. And as soon as I kind of like got comfortable with that, I feel like I just really enjoyed the story a lot more. The characters in this are honestly what make this entire story so much fun and enjoyable. I absolutely loved each of the characters. I feel like this author did such a great job at writing them to the point where you could literally picture them. You were laughing. You could just like picture your little grandma or grandpa just saying the things they're saying. And it was just like so much fun. It's such a good time. It's definitely a great cozy mystery. Like if you like a cozy mystery, nothing too intense, nothing scary, but just literally trying to solve a crime, this is going to be it for you. I kept thinking about Clue, like if you've ever seen the movie Clue and the way that movie portrays the events happening, this kind of felt like that. It felt like everything is happening so quickly paced. It's kind of comedic, nothing's super serious, but they are solving a murder. That's kind of what you get from this. And honestly, I had a great time. I think I'm settling on a 4-star for this. I'm very interested to see where this series is going to go. So I cannot wait to pick up the second book in this series, but I had a good time overall. I definitely think it was a nice change of pace. I think it picks up and it definitely makes you question everything. You're trying to solve it along with the main characters, and it's just such a fun time. And I'm definitely excited to see the movie now. So I think I'm going to see if my dad wants to watch it with me because he mentioned how this book sounded familiar. But I'm curious to see how the movie's going to be because when I tell you, I pictured each of the characters as I was reading this. I think the casting is going to be good, but we'll see when I actually see the movie. Either way, this was a good time, and I'm glad I finally got to read it because this had been sitting on my TBR for far too long. Now we have to choose my next read. I have, again, Hot Wax by M.R. Rio or Ghost Camera by Darcy Coates. I feel like either of these are probably going to be a good pick because the Thursday Murder Club was just such a chill, cozy mystery. So we have literally a horror or a thriller because I definitely don't think this was going to be scary. I think it's definitely going to be more thriller than anything. But we'll see which one I end up choosing next. I think I'm leaning more towards Hot Wax, mainly because I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it. So I'm genuinely curious. I'll be back once I start reading. Okay guys, I'm back with a little bit of an update. I don't remember what I last updated you guys on, but I did decide to go with Hot Wax by ML Rio for our next read. And I'm about 97-ish pages into this story. So I made it up to part 2. And I really don't know how I feel about this story. The concept of the book is really intriguing. We're essentially following Suzanne through 2 different timelines. One where she's like a 10-year-old and she ends up going on tour with her father and his band. And you know, you're getting that whole like Daisy Jones and the Six vibe where it's like, you know, bands and 80s music and touring, all those kinds of things that come with like being a part of like a band in the 80s. But the present timeline is honestly what's throwing me off. The present timeline is following Suzanne at, I think she's like in her late 30s or maybe she's 40 or something like that. But she's grown up now. Her father recently passed away and she ends up deciding that she wants to like separate from her husband. Something about the present timeline just doesn't really line up with the past timeline. When we're in the past timeline, I'm invested, I'm engaged. Like I really like learning about her childhood and the things that she was going through in her childhood, although maybe traumatic, but that is really interesting, getting the perspective of like her dad being in this band and you know how much she loves music and like seeing the tension between her dad and also her mom, and that's really interesting and engaging. But the present timeline, I just find myself so disengaged from it. Every time we're in the present timeline, I just don't care. And it's because it doesn't feel like it connects in any way to the past timeline. This is marketed as like kind of like a mystery thriller, and there are little hints that maybe her dad has like a bad rep for something bad that might have happened. And it's kind of unclear, like maybe somebody died or maybe he's like known to have killed somebody. I don't know because we haven't really talked about it yet, but I feel like I just don't know where the story is going. And I don't know, it's just falling really flat for me. And I was really excited to get into this because ML Rio is the author of If We Were Villains. That is one of my favorite books. So I was super excited to get into another story by this author. And I think if you've read that book and you're looking for something very similar to it, like a dark academia vibe, kind of like murder mystery college setting, like that is so not this. So don't pick this book up thinking that it's going to be anything like If We Were Villains, because it's definitely not. I don't know if any of that made sense. I feel like I'm trying to get my thoughts together on this, but I feel like I'm just not making any sense. So I do hope that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how this ends up turning out. I'm still pretty early in, so maybe as we progress through the story, it'll get better. I don't foresee this being a highly rated book, which really sucks because I was expecting it to be. I will keep reading and hopefully get through this. It's honestly kind of putting me in a slump because I keep thinking that I have to go back to this and it feels kind of like a chore, which I guess would be anybody else's sign to DNF the book, but I don't DNF books because I have like this thing where I need to know how it ends. So I'm going to finish this. I'm just hoping that it turns around. I think that's what it is. So I don't know, we'll see, but that's kind of my update for right now. I think I'm just going to keep reading later and we'll see how it goes. I want to finish this so badly. So I honestly might listen to the audio if it's available on Libby because I feel like the audio might help me get more engaged in the story. So I will be back with some more updates the further I get in or if I'm done with this because I really don't know how much I'm going to be able to talk about this book because I don't care about it. So we'll see, but I'll be back with some updates when I have them. I'm back with an update. I did finish reading Hot Wax, guys. When I tell you I had to really push through to finish this book, and it makes me so sad to say that because I was so excited to read this book, but it just was not that good. And now I'm like really sad because I just didn't like this. I feel like if the story was told solely in the past timeline, I would have loved this so much. The present timeline just did not make sense. It was so boring. I did not care for it. If I could have just skipped the present timelines, I honestly would have because I just don't get why we needed them. The past timeline was where I feel like most of the story really mattered, given that this is kind of like a mystery thriller. Something happens and we're leading up to it, but oh my God, when I tell you it's like the last 3 chapters that we finally find out what even happened in the first place. This book is not necessarily long, but it's not short either. It's about 400 pages. But the fact that we literally are given so much information for finally what happens to happen in like one of the last chapters of the book just felt like, oh my God, this felt so pointless. This felt so like I wasted my time. And honestly, I feel like I probably should have DNF'd this book. I feel like this book just felt so messy, so unorganized, and just like things being thrown together just to be thrown together. Like, I don't know. I just didn't like this. And I'm really sad to say I just didn't really like it. I really haven't decided on my final rating for this. I will probably at the end of this video kind of like come back with a final rating, but for right now, I'm still sitting on it. Those are my thoughts on this one. I did end up starting last night Ghost Camera, but I ended up getting really tired. I didn't make it very far. I got to page 16, so just 2 chapters in. But right away, we already found the camera and the first picture has been taken and we're already seeing ghosts in those pictures. So this honestly started really fast. Something that's really interesting about this, there's like is it an author's note? Yeah, no, it's an author's note. And it's essentially talking about how Darcy Coates actually rewrote this story. So this is one of her very first books that she wrote, but she ended up rewriting it and changing some things from like the original one into this one. So I did not originally know that. So that's kind of interesting. So if you've read her original one, it came out in 2014. If you read the original one and you read this one, I'd be curious to know if you thought that there were like really big changes or anything like that. But I'm curious to see where this one's gonna go because like I said, it picked up so fast. Like she literally in like the first 2 pages finds this camera, takes a picture with it, and then by the end of it, we already see ghosts in the picture. Like things are happening pretty quickly. And I was already starting to get kind of like a little spooked because it was nighttime when I started reading this. And kids are creepy. I think I've said this on my channel before, but kids are very creepy. And in the picture, she talks about how she could see a little boy in the picture, and I'm sorry, something about that spooked me out. So I was like, I'm not going to bed because I need to wake up in the morning and go to sleep. So we'll see where this goes. I'm going to keep reading this and we'll see what my thoughts are. Okay guys, I'm back with a little bit of an update. I'm 100 pages in and I didn't realize this book is essentially made up of a whole bunch of short stories. I was fully invested in this story. And then when I got to page 100, it literally says the end at the end of it. And then it's another story. So then I was like, wait a minute. So then I read the back of the book. The top part is talking about Janine finding the camera, but at the bottom it also says the horror has only just begun. Full of rich bonus material, Ghost Camera contains even more chilling tales from US Today bestselling author Darcy Coates. There's literally a whole bunch of little tales now in this. So like I just finished Ghost Camera, which I devoured, by the way. It was super spooky and I had a really good time with it. And I was ready for like 300 more pages. Like that was crazy. But like now I just get to read like a whole bunch of short stories. And I didn't know that. And they're not even that long. Like the next one is called Payment for the Dead. And it's only like 13 pages. That was like a fun little surprise. And I feel like overall, since it's technically still a novella, and I think I mentioned earlier that she like rewrote it. She says she kept a lot of the original content. She just fixed up some things that in the initial writing she said didn't really make any sense and stuff. So she tweaked some of it. But for the most part, the original story is pretty much the same. So yeah, I had no idea that this was going to be still a short story. I thought that she literally rewrote it into like a full-fledged novel. But that explains why I think in my initial update, I said that everything happened so quickly. Well, that's why, because the story is only 100 pages long. So that was really cool. I don't know. I really liked it. I thought that was a lot of fun. And it's definitely spooky. It is kind of late and I just finished reading it and I was definitely spooked. So if you're going to pick it up, definitely be aware. It's pretty creepy. The concept of it is what's terrifying. Like imagine taking a picture and there's just a ghost in it. Like actively looking at you, ghosts. Like guys, that is terrifying. But yeah, I don't know. I had a good time. If I had to just give a review on Ghost Camera, I'd say about 4 stars. I'm definitely curious to see how the rest of these short stories are going to read because I literally thought this whole book was going to be about this ghost camera. So I'm going to keep reading these little short stories now and I'll be back with some updates when I get through a few of them. Okay guys, I am back with our final update for this video. I feel like I have been filming this video for far too long. I don't know if I was kind of like in a book slump or if like, especially Hot Wax. When I tell you guys it took me so long to get through Hot Wax, I think that one was definitely putting me in a slump. But guys, Ghost Camera definitely was worth the read. This was so much fun. I did not know that this contained short stories. And in all fairness, when I read the back of the book, I just read the top. I didn't really read The Horror Has Only Just Begun. I thought it was just talking about maybe other books that she might have written. So I really just didn't read the rest of it, which is on me. It's on me. And it also goes to show how blind I like to go into my books. But my first thoughts were like, oh, that the story's being told so fast, like everything's happening so quickly. And it's like, yeah, because it's only 100 pages long. We got 9 stories in this, and quite honestly, I really enjoyed this. I had such a good time with each of the little short stories. They're all so different, and they're also all kind of ranging in how scary or spooky or super suspenseful they are. So I felt like it was a nice little breakup between each of the stories and the kind of vibe you were getting from it. I finished this book last night, and when I tell you, the last story in this book, which is the second longest story in this, and I think it's even actually longer than the first story, Ghost Camera. Let's see. It starts on page 232 and it ends on page 341. So it's definitely longer than Ghost Camera was, but it was the spookiest story in this entire book and my favorite story in this entire book. That one was called A Box of Tapes. Perfection. Perfection. So to kind of like break down this book, I think what I'm going to do is talk about each of the stories as if they're their own separate like book. Overall, I think I would give this book 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed the book as a whole. However, there are some stories that I liked more than others, but basing it off of my entire experience reading this book, I'd say this was a 4-star. I genuinely enjoyed all of the stories that we got. I felt like they were all just like fun in their own way. Some of them weren't as good as others, but I still had a good time overall reading them. So the first story we get is Ghost Camera. It's the one that's the main summary at the back of the book. It's following this girl who ends up finding a Polaroid camera at this wedding that she's attending. She decides that she's going to take a picture with the Polaroid to see if it still worked. And by the time she gets home, she looks at the picture and she starts to notice that there are kind of like actually weird things in the picture. And it ends up being that she's realizing that it's ghosts, like people that weren't actually at the party, but that were showing up in the picture. And every time she takes a picture with this Polaroid camera, she notices ghosts in it. And we're following the storyline of how she kind of like deals with this ghost camera. That one had me hooked from the beginning. I was totally invested. I really liked the storyline. I will say the friend that she has in this story was a little bit annoying. This one I'd give a 4 out of 5 star. It was so fast paced, but it kept me engaged the whole time. And because I didn't realize this was a short story, my first thoughts were like, this is all happening so fast. Like, why is the pacing so off? But it's because it's literally only 100 pages long. So it was just like a spooky good time, because when I tell you the descriptions of those Polaroid cameras and the ghosts in the Polaroid cameras, that got me. And I thought that was going to be the scariest story in this. Boy, was I wrong. The next story we get is called Payment for the Dead. This one's following an older man who has like a wife and some kids that he has to feed, and they're kind of low on money. So he ends up picking up this side job that essentially consists of him digging up graves of people who have passed. Since it's a short story, I don't want to say too much without, giving literally the whole story away, but just know it has to do with like grave digging. And this one I'd give a 3 out of 5. It was interesting. This one wasn't spooky so much as it gave almost like witchy magical vibes, I guess. It's not a scary one, and I think that's kind of why it didn't hit as high for me as like Ghost Camera did. I was expecting all of these to be a little bit more scary, but this one kind of like didn't feel as scary, more just like a more suspenseful story on kind of like events that really happen in life, because surprisingly enough in our world, grave digging is something that happens more than it should. The next one we get is Death Birds. I really enjoyed the description and like the concept of these death birds. They essentially are almost like omens. They appear when somebody is going to pass away or is likely to pass away. These birds are there just in case the person does die, and it seems like the birds feed on the person's death. This one was interesting, but I didn't really like it overall. I thought the concept of the birds was what was the most interesting. They're like these huge, like very tall, crow-like-esque birds, but nobody could actually see them. You can only see them kind of like in your periphery, which I thought was so interesting. So whenever people tried to like reimagine these birds, like recreate them in art and stuff like that, they can never really get it right because no one can actually ever see them. So the concept of the birds was what was really interesting, but I just didn't really care about the main character we were following. We also get kind of like a flashback in this one that just was kind of like, I didn't really see the point of it. Like, I feel like the story without the flashback would have been fine, but this one I did give a 2 out of 5 stars just because it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't particularly spooky, and the other reason is because the big twist that happened, I kind of already guessed that that was what was going to happen. So it didn't really blow me away or anything. It just was another story. So this one was a 2 out of 5. It wasn't my favorite out of the ones that I had read. Just the overall story just didn't have me as engaged as I was in the other ones that I read. Next was House on Boxwood Lane. This one I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. This one was kind of interesting. It was almost like a haunted house, but not kind of vibe. And I'm not really going to say what this one's about, just because this one was another one that was just kind of really short. And if I kind of give too much detail on it, I think it'll spoil the story. But just know this house appears out of nowhere and it might not be what you think it is. And it was a lot of fun. I had a good time, but it wasn't anything super crazy or anything. So it was just kind of like okay for me. So I feel like a 3 out of 5 was pretty good for that one. The next one was The Run to Broken Ridge Lighthouse. This one is for the people who love an urban legend, because this one is essentially following an urban legend. It very much gave sleepover vibes when somebody wants to like go into the bathroom, turn off the lights, and say Bloody Mary 3 times. It's very much like that. This one's following an urban legend that takes place on like this beach. This girl was one day at this beach and she apparently was murdered at this beach. And there's like a legend about her death. I'm not going to tell you what it was, because I do think the fun in this story was finding out what the ritual is that you have to do in order to summon her. But this one was a lot of fun. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was fun. I liked the ending. It was just an interesting change of pace. It's not as scary as Ghost Camera was, but there are some parts of it that are kind of creepy. And I think that elevated my experience reading it. But this one was a lot of fun. Next, we have one that's called Remains. This one is another really short one that I don't think I'm going to give too much detail on. This one wasn't my favorite either. It kind of is like a more morbid tale on obsession, and I'll leave it at that. This one was interesting. It wasn't anything super crazy though, so I did give this one a 2 out of 5. I still enjoyed the reading experience of it. Nothing about it really blew me away. The next story was called Untamed Things. This one was a really good time. A really good time. If you don't like plane crashes, or flying gives you like, it stresses you out, because I know for a lot of people flying is very triggering and a plane crash is also very triggering. So definitely be aware, because this one is about a plane crash, but all the events that occur after the plane crash happens, so much fun. Such a good concept. I had a really good time. I was able to see like the big twist that was going to get revealed towards the end of it, but the story was honestly just told so well, and I was engaged and hooked the entire time. This one was a 4 out of 5 star for me. I really enjoyed it. The next one was called Cathedral. This one was another super short one, so I'm not going to give too much detail on it, but this one was a 2 out of 5 star for me. It was just okay, but just know that if you're on a road trip and you see this like building that seems out of place, maybe just don't stop there. Maybe just keep going. Don't stop at places that seem a little out of place, you know? That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. And the last story in this is called A Box of Tapes. 5 stars. 5 stars. That story had me spooked from the beginning. When I was reading it last night, I was home alone, and there was a noise. There was a noise that happened in my kitchen, and I was like literally out loud, no, absolutely not. I called my mom and I was like, I'm reading a scary story right now, and there was a noise in my kitchen. I don't believe in ghosts, okay? I do not. But I heard that noise. So I was like, I just need you to be there with me, not physically, but you know, through the phone. You need to be there with me so I can go check on whatever that noise was. I think it was just one of my dishes shifting, but when I tell you that that's how on edge I was reading that last story, until the very last page, I was on edge. Darcy Coates slayed with that story. It was a spooky good time. If you're looking literally for a scary story, buy this book just to read that last one. Just to read that last one, because it was perfection. Just know that if I buy a house and a box of tapes appears out of nowhere with a note that says, do not watch these, you'll regret it, I will not be watching those tapes. Even if there isn't a note, I'm not watching those tapes, okay? I'm not watching tapes
that were left behind because they're left behind for a reason. Just know that. Just know that. But I did ask Joshua if he would watch the tapes, and he said yes. And I was like, okay, you could watch the tapes and then let me know what was on the tapes. But I am not watching those tapes. That's all you need to know going into this one. This was such a good time. I had such a good time with this book. I could not recommend this enough. If you like spooky stories, please read this. Please read this, especially because they're so short. Like the longest one was the last book, and I think it's only just like a little over 100 pages. Like it's not anything super crazy, so you could easily space these out. There's 9 stories, and they all read just super quick. So definitely recommend. I think this would be a great book to read during October, but a lot of the stories do take place over different seasons and stuff. So honestly, I think you could read this whenever, but if you're specifically, I love to read spooky stories during October time, definitely pick this one up around October because I think you'll have a really good time with it. But 4 stars, I enjoyed this so much. Found a 5-star in the 4-star, but it was so much fun. So that does bring us to the end of this video. Guys, like I said, I feel like I've been filming this video for so long now, so I can't believe it's finally over. But just to quickly recap what we did read, we started off with The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This book was on my TBR for a very long time, and I finally got to it, and I had such a good time. This is like the definition of a cozy murder mystery. Such a good time. I love the characters, and I can't wait to pick up the next one because this does end kind of on a cliffhanger. It definitely made me excited to pick up the next book to see kind of like where we're going to go with the series, because I do think the series is pretty long. I don't know how many books are in the series, but I definitely know there's more than I think 5. So I'm excited to continue the series, and I'm really glad that I finally read this because it was a long time coming and I really enjoyed it. I think I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And then after this one, I ended up picking up Hot Wax by ML Rio. This one was disappointing, and I'm really sad about it because If We Were Villains is one of my favorite books of all time. I absolutely love that story. I love the writing in it. I love the Shakespeare like vibes that we got from it. Like everything about that book was just so much fun. Dark academia, murder mystery, like perfection. So I was really excited to read another book by this author, and this is her second actual novel because she does have a short story called Graveyard that she released. I haven't read it just because I haven't heard the best things. So when I saw that she was coming out with this one, I was so excited. But yeah, this just wasn't it for me. I think I settled on a 2.5 for this. I wanted to love this so much, but I found myself just not wanting to pick up this book at all. Every time I had to pick it up, I just was like not interested in getting back into the story. Nothing about this really just stuck out with me. It is told in a past-present timeline, and I did find myself wishing that the story was only told in the past timeline. Felt like we were being told 2 completely different stories in one and trying to make them connect in some way. I just didn't really get the whole point of the present timeline, and because of that, every time we went to the present timeline, I just did not care. And then for the entire story to kind of like just lead up to like the big twist being revealed in like one of the last 3 chapters just felt so underwhelming, and it was just like that was it. So I don't know, this one just fell super flat for me. 2.5 stars. I am very sad about this. And of course we ended with Ghost Camera. This was honestly just a fun surprise for me because I just wasn't expecting to get 9 stories in this book. So I'm actually really happy that that happened because I feel like had I gone into this expecting these short stories, I wouldn't have been as surprised, so it probably wouldn't have hit the same. I don't know, but 4 stars, I just thoroughly enjoyed this overall. But those are all of the books that we read for this video. I am very happy that this video is over because I feel like I've been filming it forever, but I do hope you guys enjoyed. If you've read any of these books, I would love to know what your thoughts were, especially if you've read Ghost Camera. Please let me know what your thoughts were on A Box of Tapes because that story is going to live rent-free in my mind for a while. I'm probably not going to get over it for a while. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I would love it if you would like, comment, subscribe. My links are down below if you want to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Goodreads, because I do post there as well. And I will hopefully see you guys all in the next one. Bye!